What's up, Star Wars fans and action figure collectors? Darth Collector here, and in today's video, we're going to be reviewing one of my favorite Star Wars action figures in my collection. That being the Vintage Collection General Grievous figure. Before we get going with the review though, I am at 90 subscribers, only 10 away from 100. And please help me reach that goal by just subscribing and hitting that notification bell. I'm going to be uploading a really cool video on May the 4th, which will be a surprise for you guys, but I'm really excited for it. You guys have been asking for it for a while now. So please hit the notification bell so you can be alerted right when that goes up. Now, before we keep going, I just want to get into the story of how I got this figure originally. So, obviously this is a really rare figure, especially carded. I've seen it go close to $100, I've seen 60, I've seen 80, whatever. This is a pretty rare figure. And so, one day was at a local comic shop and I was just browsing for some figures to see if they had anything. I was specifically looking for one or two, and not this guy. And this random Revenge of the Sith 4-pack caught my eye up on one of the shelves. And I pulled it down and took a look at it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the Vintage Collection Grievous in there. And then there was also a Vintage Collection Mace Windu, Yoda, and one more figure, which I'm forgetting off the top of my head. So this isn't the actual specific figure you're going to get in the Vintage Collection packaging, but this is the literal same figure, same everything. Maybe the paint apps are slightly different, but overall the figure is just a same figure, same retool, so I figured I'd do a review on it. We're going to start off with this figure's accessories. This Grievous figure comes with 4 accessories. It comes with a blue, a green lightsaber, and then 2 lightsaber hilts. These are very standard lightsabers, and I'm pretty sure they're just repaints of some other ones we've seen before. Even the hilts are similar, but they all work well and get the job done. The lightsabers all fit into Grievous's hand pretty well too, but we'll get to that more later in the video. The 2 lightsaber hilts actually have a nice compartment inside of Grievous's cape. This is a super cool part of Grievous, and he has room for 8 lightsabers inside of this cape. Here's how the lightsabers look when they're in the cape. Taking a look at the sculpting and paint apps on this figure, as with all Vintage Collection figures, this one is awesome. Obviously Grievous doesn't need to be super detailed because he's Grievous, but the sculpting especially looks really nice. Also, I don't know if you can see it, but under the light, there's a nice bit of yellow down there representing Grievous's guts. Sculpting on this entire figure is great, and his feet are actually quite a bit smaller than the Clone Wars version they released back when the show was airing. Back also looks nice, and overall, sculpting and paint apps on this figure are really good. But this figure shines the most on articulation. This figure has a really cool feature where you can unclip the arms from itself and turn it into 4 arms. I really like this because unlike all the other Clone Wars Grievous figures where you have to pull out his shoulder blades and just stick in new shoulders to put in 4 arms, this one works really well, and if you're doing a stop motion animation, this looks so sick. The arms go in through 2 small holes, one by his wrist and one in his arm, with this side having 2 small pegs that stick into there. Now, as you can see from the closed arm still, there is a small gap, but the arm can still bend a little bit and still is perfectly articulatable, if that's even a word, with all the pegs in. You can't swivel his wrist with the pegs in, but I think it's a worthy downside to this figure's arms. As for articulation, if you count each of the arms separately, this figure is 20 POA. He has ball joint at the head, ball joint at the shoulder, ball joint at the elbow, swivel at the wrist, ball joint at the waist, swivel at the leg, swivel at the knee, ball joint at the ankle. Now, counting all 4 arms including the shoulder, this is 20 POA. Counting each arm as 1, so it's like this, that's 14 POA. And if you don't count the shoulders as 2, because it is kind of 1 but also 2, I would say 2 personally, but it could be considered 1, then that'd be 18 points of articulation. Overall, this is a super articulated figure, and I mean super articulated, having more points than even super articulated figures. Talk about a mouthful. Now, remember when I said that this figure holds his lightsabers really well at the start of the video? Well, that's partially true. When this figure is in his 2-armed configuration, he actually holds his lightsabers extremely well. I can pretty much guarantee you that if he falls over and you have the lightsabers secured right, he won't drop them, they'll stay in there. Now, when the figure's in his 4-armed configuration, he is a little bit looser on the lightsabers. As with all Grievous figures with 4 arms, it's a little bit challenging to get them all to stay. If I shake this figure right now, at least one of the lightsabers falls out. Now that's not to say they're not secure. Some of these arms I could wiggle them for a while and the lightsabers aren't coming out. Some of them though will. That's just the way it is when you're trying to grip them with 3 fingers. As you can see, this isn't hugely optimized for holding lightsabers. That being said, this works out really fine, and in a display, if the figure is not getting knocked around too much, you'll really have no issues. I've had this figure displayed with 4 lightsabers, had it displayed with 2 lightsabers, I've had it displayed in all manner of ways, and it always holds the lightsabers fine. It'll occasionally lose one if it falls, not a big deal. Overall, on a scale of Last Jedi 5 POA Rose Tico to a really highly detailed super articulated vintage figure, I'd probably give this figure an 8 or a 9. Now, I've given a lot of 8 or 9s in the past, but obviously with my lesser good figures, like some of the 5 POAs or the Foul Matama, I think my numbers were a little bit on the high end. This one, however, actually earns his spot up there, and on this new scale, the Rose Tico to Vintage Collection scale, he's definitely really high up there. I would say this is in the top 5 favorite figures in my entire collection, just because of how sick he looks holding all 4 lightsabers or holding 2 lightsabers, and just that cape is so wicked looking on him. Now, I think we would all know who would win in a fight between these 3 Grievous figures, and that's exactly how I feel. This is a must-have for any major Grievous fan or series Star Wars collector. To get it, you're going to have to be sniping and looking carefully for a while. You're not going to get it on the first time you see it because it's definitely one of the more pricey figures, so unless you got banks sitting around, now's probably not the right time. I got this figure for $40, but I also got a Vintage Collection Mace Windu and a Vintage Collection Yoda and some other Vintage Collection mysterious figure that I can't seem to figure out which one it was. Please tell me in the comments which one's in that Revenge of the Sith pack. And that's all I got for $40. So that's like $10 a figure for 4 figures, unless it was 3 and there's not a mystery figure. Which, all those figures can go for about $40 individually, so I feel like I got a pretty good deal. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you made it all the way to this part, I really appreciate that. And if you're not subscribed already, maybe consider doing that for me because we're super close to 100 and I would really appreciate it. Also, I hope you guys are all doing well during this whole coronavirus thing. And may the Force be with you guys. Have a great day or night, wherever you may be. And as always, go buy Grievous's wheel bike with this figure because it's insane.